I mean, it seems to come naturally.
We try.
So, Mr. Martin Phils,
Mm,
let's talk about Pilates for a minute here because we're going to talk about 75 things and we're probably going to run out of time. Good thing
hmm
you've got a client afterwards. But,
Right.
we are all in this crazy Pilates land and you are experiencing it in Canada. I'd love to know what is happening. I know in your area there's lockdowns, reverse lockdowns, which is reopen. Um, what's happening up there right now? What's the current climate?
Lockdown. Yeah. I mean, Canada right now is going through a major third wave. Ontario, where the province where Toronto is situated, is particularly hard hit. But other provinces like British Columbia and Alberta are also really right across the country. Even the East Coast, which had formed a bubble and they had kept COVID at bay, now Nova Scotia is beginning to experience a third wave. We'll see what the news reports say today. Maybe they've contained it. But so right across the country. So work here is basically online now. Um, Sometimes I'll work outdoors with one person, and we all look like we're preparing for Mars. Plus the weather,
If any
right?
of my clients are listening to this, it is not going to happen. I do not work in the cold.
Well, but this winter for Toronto has been fairly mild. So, in actual fact, it's been okay to work. You dress appropriately. Uh, my client has good outdoor sports gear that's light and nimble, but keeps them warm. And so do that socially distance. I'm double masked. It just goes on and on. So the land is very, very, very much moved online. I completed a workshop with Stott Pilates a couple of weeks ago now, and so Marathew Fitness, and again, the lead instructor trainer, she did it from her home, and there were 12 of us in the class, and we all did the workshop from home. So that was fun. It was Jennifer Dahl who ran that workshop. She's very much a favorite of mine, and she's been at Marathew, I think, outside of Moira, she's been at Marathew one of the longest and
Wow.
still there. So she's been there since 2003.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I remember meeting Moira in 1997 or 98. So it's not too long after they had been established in the early 90s. So,
Wow.
and
Okay.
I've done most of my training through them mainly.
Well, and a couple things. So I love the fact, at the start of this, and, I was super excited to hop online because I've been doing privates online for people anyway. And, it wasn't that big of a challenge to get online. It's a little tougher to bring the whole operation online, but, you just get used to it. When shit's flying, you put up your umbrella and you go, right? I
Mhm.
don't know that Martin swears on his show, but I'm taking it over today.
It's a takeover. We're taking
That's
over.
right. We take over. My language wins today. Um, but you just deal with it. But I will admit, I was hesitant to go online with teacher training
Mm.
because I was a little bit concerned that there would be the golden nuggets just missing from that point of contact, that physical contact. But then, I was like, whatever, let's figure it out and make it work. And I don't know that anyone's going to be getting up and close and personal and having that same hands-on approach to teaching as we did before. Maybe it'll take a while. What do you think?
I think it's going to take a while. I mean, given, vaccinations going on here in the city of Toronto, the statistic is that now 40% of the city has gotten at least one shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 5 or 6% of the city has gotten both vaccines. So that's not a bad thing. That's good progress. But with the variants going out there, and a lot of the vaccines will probably have to be retuned and reissued. This is going to be something that we'll be dealing with for a while. So we have to get used to be able to transmit our energy online, transmit our cueing online, transmit all of those golden nuggets that you talk about online. When the pandemic first hit, I actually didn't do anything for a month. I actually realized it because I was running so hard. It was the beginning of 2020 was extremely busy and was actually a little bit of a chance to take a break. So I didn't get my online game going until mid-April. So then I started in that and started bringing people over. And it's been a slow building process, but now it's like I don't know where I'm going to put people because it's getting so busy. So people are getting used to the fact that things are happening online. I also remember, if you had watched it too, Martin's interview with Jean-Claude Nelson,
Mhm.
where that was actually very shocking to me. On the other side of things, oh, the pandemic has ruined my life. I don't think I'm going back into Pilates or teaching ever again. And that was a hard knock. So some people, we're up there in the upper echelons of teaching and instructing, but we're all humans too. So we're going to be very affected very differently depending on circumstance and our emotional state at the time. And Germany, you have to remember, in March was really being pounded. It wasn't like
Right,
North America, not
right.
yet, right? So, it was almost apocalyptic for them
Yeah. I,
with
I think
thousands of cases.
I think for a lot of people, and it's easy to forget because we're kind of nearing the exit, maybe.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Maybe,
That's
yeah.
that's for later in the talk. But
Yeah, much later.
it's trauma. It's been traumatic for a lot of people. A lot of people have seen everything that they have clung to, everything that they have built, poof, either a quick poof away or a slow, like slogging decline. And so it's one, watching all of these changes happen and in real time. And now that we are online and getting to know each other, I personally thank COVID for a lot of things that it's opened up for me, including meeting amazing people like you, getting closer to my friend Martin Reed, who I met at a photo shoot a long time ago.
Hmm.
I can't even remember when. But we were in each other's orbits, kind of on the periphery. But it's brought a lot of us together. But it has really showed me, at least, how many people have affected and how many been affected, and how many people need support,
Hmm.
just as a community of people. Which is why
Well, and
I
if it wasn't for COVID, yeah, certainly you and I wouldn't have met. I've always followed the great Sonia Herbert, but never had the opportunity to actually meet her. And then, wow, all of a sudden now we're like the best of
oh
friends,
my god, you guys are
right?
on the phone all the time. I'm
We're
like,
on the
how
yes.
did you guys
Anybody
stay
trying to call
connected?
us, we're always on the phone. And the incomparable, Teresa Ellis and Kim Carruthers as well. Two people like that, Chantel Douglas, people like that. I'd never thought in my wildest dreams that I would meet. Right, and they're there. We're all working together. So I think that that's wonderful. The pandemic has really done a lot to bring people who normally are kind of siloed in their cities and in their work. And now that we're online, I mean, there's also cons with this as well too. But the good thing is that it's brought us all together as a community. I think Martin's done a really good job with core conversations, particularly starting that up right in the midst of the pandemic last April, and just getting going with getting that community building work going, right, with all of us together. And a lot of people I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for this show as well too, including the incomparable Martin Reed. So
And Martin Reed does it so selflessly too. I mean, that's
yes.
what I appreciate about what he does and what he's brought and created, is that, he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to start this little thing and we're going to do it and it's going to be fantastic. And yeah, I'm just going to have these conversations and see where it leads. That, I think it takes a special, anybody can start talking, but to create a community like Martin has created, and like those of us who have jumped in and, tried to match or mirror or help uplift have done,
Hmm.
creating and maintaining a community, especially when we are a community at a distance we can't touch, it's hard. Well, I wouldn't say it's hard. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to keep the same vim and vigor. So hats off to Martin Reed. Hats off to everybody that's here today and that has been regularly reaching out and finding ways to touch far and distant parts of our Pilates world.
Absolutely. I think that everybody should give themselves a pat on the back for making it this far and being able to retune and grow. And the thing about it is, all of us, Misty, myself, Martin, everybody that I've mentioned, reach out to us too, because if you're having difficulty getting yourself sort of established in this Pilates world at this time, right? You're still not finding your groove. We're around to help. That's exactly what the greater community is for.
Yeah.
So, in terms of getting, perhaps a business plan, not necessarily as deep as that, but, giving you ideas for the ways to go online, ways of revenue generation, all of those sort of things. And you have to think about core conversations too, because he's doing this on Instagram. So that means he's not getting any monetization for what he's doing here.
Exactly.
No, we could have moved this over to YouTube, right? And deal with all of the YouTube nonsense. I was going to say bullshit, but we don't swear on Martin's show. But yes, would deal with
But
all
we
of it.
already have.
So
That's
there you
why
go.
it's
The
a
precedent has
takeover.
been set. All right. So
That's
dealing
it.
with all of that bullshit, but then Martin would have been handily monetized, giving the views that he gets all the time for this, and also he may have even had a broader reach. Okay, but no, we choose to keep it here, where it is public, where it is open, where it's transparent, where it's free for everybody to access us. So that says a lot. And with the work that we all do, this especially when we're working together to do the work, particularly when we're dealing with anti-black racism and all of that, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and no remuneration for anything that we do. Right? It's a lot of work,
But it's
but it's good work. It's
it's
good work.
yeah, it's a
It's
lot of work in that it's just labor. And at the end of the day, sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't do any more labor. On
mhm.
top of all of it, just being black and that labor in itself is a lot of work.
Yes, we can talk about that later too.
Later. But at the same time, when you start to feel a little despondent, like, here we go, is this just not changing? And then you come onto a platform like this and start having a conversation, and you realize how connected we are and how many people in far and off lands who we never would have thought are part of the movement to make all of this change and grow and evolve. I mean, to me, for all of the work that it is, that's where I get the energy. That's manna for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody in scratch my ass Wisconsin, population 7, really, really cares about what's happening in the Black community and how that can help change all of us, how we can work to be better connected. I mean, how exciting is that?
Oh, I agree. And the fact that we are reaching people in where listen, Canada has more obscure place names and more interesting ones. You just have to go to Newfoundland. Those of you who are Canadian know the place that I'm thinking about.
Do tell.
We do have a place in Newfoundland called Dildo,
Hmm.
Newfoundland. It's a tourist attraction, to say the
Are they
least. But
known
yeah,
there?
no, no, no. It's just an unfortunate name.
Indeed. Indeed.
But there you go. We have more obscure places in Canada. But the fact that through these worldwide webs, we're beginning to reach people there, and we are finding people who recognize the fact that all of this is not just a race problem, but it's a human problem. How do we become better humans? That's my favorite quote from Malcolm X. Has to be that, right? It's not only a matter of racial rights, but it's human rights. You have to think of us. We're not apart. We are all human beings, right?
Right, right. Well,
So,
and like I say on Thought Flow, though, it's
yes,
take race out. There's always somebody else. There's always someone that's on the bottom.
yes,
And so, what we really need to be doing is, hierarchies don't work. Hierarchies only work for the people on the top. What happens if we flatten it out? Now, is that a big ask considering that we're human beings and we're tribal and territorial and all of these things? Well, I believe that if we are truly worth all the glial cells we have, then we need to work together to, to level that. When everybody can work from the same place and grow and evolve, then you don't need to put other people down, right?
Exactly.
That's my thought on it.
Listen, this age of enlightenment started now nearly 3,000 years ago, right?
Wow.
It's taken us this long to get to that place. So, yes, Rome wasn't built in a day, but hopefully now the things start happening in logarithmic leaps and bounds, and it doesn't take us another 1,000 years to really get to where we should be. But yeah, this age of enlightenment, there are human beings who are talking about putting down your swords and turning them into plowshares now since 2000, before the Common Era, right? So go through the list. You have Hammurabi, you have Confucius. You go down through Egypt. You go
Right.
through, of course, through the great Abrahamic, Christian, and Muslim prophets. You go through all of those people, right? To see the evolution of that, and we're beginning to understand now. Great book by Girard. It's about the scapegoat. He's
I
a
have
French
this great
philosopher.
book recommendation.
Yeah, yeah. He is a wonderful French philosopher, and he talks about the evolution of humanity, moving away from war to then having sort of designated victims, to moving away from punishment that means death to punishment that means rehabilitation,
Mhm.
right? And it's a process. Now, some human communities have done that a lot faster. If you look at Native, Indigenous North Americans, they've had healing circles and that sort of thing for thousands of years already.
Thousands of
So
years. Yes, exactly.
so they're ahead of the game. That idea of retribution in the form of harsh punishment is not something, but it's reparations, repair, healing, right? And that's something that we all need to do. So yeah, COVID has done a lot. It certainly has exposed all of the underbelly that is not that pretty, that was covered, with wealth and consumerism and all of those things that are just hardy distractions. But now I think that A, people have slowed down. B, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past year. I don't think we need to name all of them. Maybe we
No,
should, because we
I
should say
think
that
we,
we should say
I
their names.
think,
George Floyd,
yeah, I think we
Breonna
have to
Taylor, we've
keep saying
Aubrey Ahmaud, going through the list of all of those people, and then
and
some,
it still
and
happens.
it's still happening, right? But now that we've had a chance to slow down, is people can actually stop and look in the mirror and see that they're wanting,
Right.
and it's time to change.
And we are at a point where access, even though not where it should, it's not where it should be yet.
Mm,
There's so many things that are more accessible, therapy, et cetera, things that we can be doing to start working to collectively heal the trauma. you know
exactly.
and this is where I'm at. Being in the movement world, it's important to me to talk about these things, because as I say, as so many say, we are all connected. If we don't allow people to arrive in our movement spaces as who they are, if we say you have to leave the parts of you that are hurting outside, at the corner until you're done with class, we are not allowing who we're working with to connect in a way that allows for healing. And
Exactly.
up level that a bit. We can even be doing harm by saying, oh, well, you're upset by all of this trauma that you're seeing on the news. Well, we can't really focus on that, because this is Pilates. Now, I'm not saying in a class of 35 you want to start a political conversation.
Right.
That's a really, really great way to blow up. But what I am saying is that, there are people that just need to know that they can be felt and understood. You don't
For
have to
who they
have
are.
the words. You don't have to be able to touch them. There are ways to reach people that just reinforce that human connection that we are supposed to have.
I agree 100%. Listen, and it's naive to think that, that all of this drama, the trauma, sorry, people aren't embodying the trauma, right? Trauma is going to affect their movement, and then you're going to tell them at the front door, no, you can't bring that in. That's
Lots of,
absolutely nonsense.
lots
It's
of,
absolute nonsense. It's important for us as movement instructors, as Pilates instructors in particular, to go to the places where people are, because our job is to rehabilitate, to generate healing, to generate a better sense of self and freedom through movement. And if you're telling people, drop your trauma at the door and come correct to this class or else, that is a huge barrier to accessibility.
well,
Again,
and yes, the mind body connection. Well, how the hell do you have a mind body connection if your brain's in a trunk at the corner? You can't have a mind body connection if you don't allow people to feel.
exactly. 150% on that one. Absolutely. So, and as instructors and trainers in the field, especially in our work, I mean, Pilates is very, very specific. Let's be clear about this, because I know we have yoginis in the room and people listening of various other exercise disciplines, but it's very, very specific. Joseph developed the methodology to heal. That's what it is. It was all about feeling better, feeling better in your own skin. And there's an importance about feeling better in your own skin. And, for example, there's no beat or rhythm inside Pilates, as a class. Everybody works to their ability. We don't, it isn't like a step aerobics where you have to go at, 128 beats per minute and you're up and down in step and you have to do this and you have to do that. No, it's all about, and I train people about that. And
Sure.
it's an interesting dichotomy when you have something like Pilates where people have to be in tune with themselves and then move according to how they are inside, versus, oh, well, now here's my great, I'll put on Beyonce and we're going to do, a whole routine.
Right, right.
So, it's really, we're here to heal. So it is imperative that Pilates instructors, again, as I say before, we bring ourselves to where our participants are, not the other way around.
Well, and I know for me as a teacher, and you guys can put something in the chat. You're awfully quiet out there,
Yeah, you are.
super quiet. But, I know for me as a teacher, and I've been doing this for a long time, even dance before Pilates, but when you see somebody make a connection that is deep and true, there's a softness that comes about them. You
Mhm.
can see their breath change. All of the tension in their neck just kind of fades away. And there is so much joy in that for me. I couldn't imagine just saying, you can't be who you are. Now, there's something to be said for you can't be who you are in a way that disrupts everyone else's process. That's a different story altogether. And there's
Of
people that,
course.
if they're not jamming with your chi, coffee is important. I haven't had mine yet, but I will get to it soon, Michelle. Get to
I
work.
had my coffee already. I needed to. I already taught a big class this morning. Without
I've
that
been
coffee, I would have been a slug.
I've been having distraction all morning. Captain distraction is when I start a task and I put my purse in the fridge and I'm doing all kinds of other things. That's my
Yeah,
thing.
been there, done that.
But when somebody finds that click in that place, that's an amazing thing. And when somebody in the group creates a situation that is unsafe, where people cannot just and just be who they are. And sometimes that person that creates that is the teacher.
Aha. Absolutely.
Yeah.
1000%. Absolutely that. But teachers, as Pilates teachers too, we have to acknowledge our own humanity. that we are not superhuman. Yes, a lot of us, many of us can do superhuman things and get into superhuman postures, at very, very advanced levels, right? But yeah, no, again, we have to descend from Mount Olympus sometimes and fraternize with the folks. And that's our job, actually, to do that. Not to be up front and be these golden gods, right? And proclaim movement from on high. No, we have to work with everybody to bring them, give them the start, that almost, if you want to use the analogy, make them gods as we are. Okay, so absolutely, we
100%.
have to. That's what our job is. End of story. There shouldn't be any debate about that at all. No, well, we have the same thought process when it comes to this. So it's
Well, but
it's
I think it's important to talk about it
yes,
because,
for sure.
again, in talking about community building, there are a lot of you out there, and my Pilates career was like this at the start, where I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have any masters that I worked with, or really anybody. So I was on an island. I was on Pilates Island, population one. I didn't have anybody to have these thoughts with.
Right.
And coming into Pilates from dance and having that whole warped dance thing to begin with, there were just certain things that were incongruous. I knew what I was seeing, and I knew what I was trying to instill in people. But coming from that place, it was a very, very different experience. And as I evolved, I wished I had somebody to talk to about these things, or I wish I could have heard this. So now I'm talking to everybody who will listen
Yes.
because I think it's important. I think we impede our students' processes. I think, when we come into the studio and we're, say, complaining about how we've gained weight during COVID or whatever it is, how that affects our students that are here, because one, they maybe do idolize us a little bit. And then if we're complaining about these things that are really, truly superficial in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
how are we making them feel?
Hmm.
You know, it's the accessibility piece again too. I can't say it enough. The great thing about being on the mat work is that everyone's equal on the mat, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, they can all lie down on the mat. Well, let's talk about accessibility for a minute, because I think that was very much a problem in the Pilates world that was really exposed last spring, in spring 2020 and summer 2020, about the whole idea of accessibility. And we were faced with a movement that was very, very perfectionist, um, performatively very white in terms of that, and very singular in body type.
Mm-hmm.
And this caused a lot of hurt and grief and consternation amongst a lot of very, very high end Pilates professionals who were delivering the work day in and day out, and helping people from the grassroots right up, and holding space for everybody, and then to be victimized by that sort of behavior. I think that was almost the straw that broke the camel's back, essentially, with the Pilates movement last year. That, and of course, we were talking about racial problems as well too. But that
We
broke.
can't talk about race,
Oh, yes, we can, and we will,
and we
and we
do.
are. So, yes, that broke the back of Pilates, and I think that a lot of people who were kind of worshiping that very performative, uniform, homogenous sort of perfection were taken aback
Well,
by the backlash. And it was because COVID. It was the fact that people had a voice online, and it was the fact that, again, people like you, myself, like Martin, were giving the space for their voices to be heard. Okay, that all of a sudden, yeah, well, maybe we should change our approach. Some people have been very reluctant to change, as you and I both know. Uh, uh, no, not a teeny bit. I mean, where's my house?
well, and yeah, it's funny. It's funny who we decide to serve versus who we really truly want to serve. And I feel like, for me, what I'm seeing is a lot of people starting to see that I can still serve my community and still be a part of the community without having to cling to those standards that were established by somebody who I don't know and I don't really care about, and really is capitalizing off of the misery that comes from trying to uphold those standards.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that those standards were established intentionally per se, but I am saying that they were perpetually and intentionally pushed along, because that's what image building is. You know, the image of what Pilates is X. Nobody should ever call a Pilates studio and say, I need to lose weight before I come in. And yet that
Never.
is what we have put out there as an industry, intentionally or otherwise. I'm not saying that we've all done it intentionally, but you know, when all of your Marcom is you standing there in a napkin, you know, showing off all of your ripped muscles, you know, not telling anybody that you were dropping weight and then carbo loading and then all of those things just for the photo shoot.
Hmm.
I mean, let's be honest about it. We did this to ourselves by not standing up. So I understand why people kind of were like, you know, this doesn't serve me. I'm going to step back into my own little corner on Pilates Island and be safe. But then when you keep that to yourself, when you say, I'm going to be safe over here and I'm going to close my eyes to this and don't speak out, then you end up with the conundrum that we had last year and still continue to go through
Hmm.
with Pilates, with this inability to talk about things that don't fit the status quo.
Yeah, exactly. And we also have to be frank about these standards too. It was a way for a specific group of people to remain unnamed for now, but it was a way for them to maintain a degree of profitability and monetize what they were doing, not realizing, of course, that Joe himself had so many students. I must sound like a broken record, but each student was different. He taught each student according to their body. That is the
He
role.
built their equipment for them.
And he built their equipment custom made for them and their bodies. Exactly. So that's what we need to do as instructors. We work with the bodies that come to us for help. All right. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to hold a standard. Oh, well, I only do the classical repertoire on the mat and the classical repertoire on the reformer. Well, that was fine for that person who taught you. Right?
Yeah.
It may not even be fine for you, in
Right.
actual fact, and you're doing yourself more harm than good. Other people, I'll tell you, were taught differently by him. And this is why we have Windsor Pilates. This is why we have Marathon. This is why we have Balanced Body. Some of them come from the same even master trainer originally, but they branch out. This is why we have the Franklin method. I can go down the list, with people. We have, of course, in the Black community, which is again, it's so unfortunate that people don't know enough about Kathy Grant and Sarita and all of the group. One of the first instructors that Joseph said, ego te, you may certify people, right, and pass the knowledge on. And you look at the Grant method, and it's very different than the Kurtzenova method in
But they
terms of,
were all different when you look at
and they were all different. Yes, exactly.
Barova's lineage, you know, and all of that work. You know, listen here, peeps. I don't know why and maybe somebody will tell me while we're here. Feel free to use the chats. I don't know why we've all decided that because it's Romana's, it's better and it's real. You know, if we truly value the elders and the work that they provide, then why isn't all of it classical in that it came directly from the man? It was for that person, and then they shared it. I mean, to me, that's what's important. And then that's right, Michelle, get to work. They decided. And
Mhm.
you know, I as a person, like, some people are addicted to like avocados, some people are addicted to crack. I'm addicted to education.
Oh,
I
that's so Misty.
I'm not addicted to crack, but I am addicted to education, and I want to study, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I am still like, any chance I can get my hand on education, I am going to do it, and I'm going to lap it up and love it, and I want to learn as much of it as I can, not just for the teaching at all. At this point in my career, I'm looking to do it for myself because it feeds me. It makes me feel good. Um,
Exactly.
I don't understand why we have to just, oh, you know what? I choose contemporary land, and that's the road I'm going to go down, and that's it. Well, I'm classical, and I'm over here, and that's it. And if it didn't come from Ramana, it doesn't exist. Isn't that kind of putting Ramana above Joe in a lot of ways?
Yes, exactly. Isn't it?
I mean,
Isn't
isn't
it?
that a
Well, but then the lawsuit was lost. This is why we have all of these flavors of Pilates, Ron Fletcher, again, Franklin, all of these methods. And yes, Michelle says it correct. He
yeah,
was a whole person and not a god. Um, that a caged lion and like, no, I agree 100%. He was a whole person and he taught the whole person. Black, white, Latinx, didn't matter, right? He
right,
taught the whole person. He healed the whole person. He's been doing it since World War One. When
right.
soldiers are coming into him, having their cores blasted to bits with shrapnel and developing all of his apparatus from a bed and using the springs. Here's the Cadillac. Here's the reformer, right? All of those things. And then, as you say, custom building equipment. He understood that everybody needs to be met at their level. You don't come up to us and say that you have to be at my level. No, I come down to you. And for that disruptive person that you were talking about earlier, that's the type of person that probably needs a little bit more attention. So we come down to their level by suggesting, well, maybe we should work one-on-one,
Right.
right?
Right.
The class environment is not for you, and the class environment is not for everybody, especially online when I'm not walking around people and kind of having a close eye. I have to be more performative because people have to understand what's being done, right? And then I have 12, 15, 20 little squares on a laptop. I'm actually going to change that arrangement. I'm going to get a HDMI cable hookup and hook it up to a bigger TV because I'm getting old now, and frankly,
Oh
seeing
my
things
gosh,
in the
I'm
big
like
big
this.
screen. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Let's not go there. And I'm older than you, so
not in spirit though. I don't think.
no, no, we're all very old souls. But yeah, just bringing Pilates to the people. That's the idea.
All of the people, listen, our grannies need it.
Yes,
Our kids need it.
yes.
What we need that. Yes, and get to work here. Michelle, she's brought it to the people in so many ways. Kim Carruthers is another one, Pilates in the Hood. Like, there are so many people out there. Balanced Body now has this community expansion program scholarship. We are working in ways to bring this work to so many people, but it's more than just getting it there, right? In
Absolutely.
getting it to the people, we have to make sure that we ourselves are ready to deal with what the people have for us. Saying I will build it and they will come is great, but if we're not aware of who we are and what we bring to the table in terms of our potential, we're not using the term blind spots anymore, but I don't remember what the term is, so please forgive me. Something about operationally, intentionally obtuse. We can't
Hmm.
be obtuse about what we're bringing to the table as well.
Right.
What do I mean by that? There are teachers out there that want to, go out and save, we'll say, poor Black people, and they want to get Pilates to them, but they don't understand what their implicit biases are. And they don't understand how they may bring something to the table that makes those people, those very communities that they're trying to serve,
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable, harms them, etc., and
Hmm.
turns people away from this work we do, which
Hmm.
again, as Martin has said, as I've said, is supposed to be work of healing.
Yes. Exactly. So again, it does require all of us to release our internal biases, whether it's body positivity or whatever, really, or racism. Let's bring it down to that. Right down to racism, body positivity, everything. We have to let go of those things. We have to be able to learn, and it's a learning process. Listen, we talk about decolonization all the time. I'm West Indian. I come from Trinidad. I've come from a family of privilege. It has also meant that I have had to decolonize myself and other in order to understand my own Black communities, and we're not just one, but we're so many communities, so that I could better reach them and give them the tools that they need, I think, to help them succeed, help us all succeed. But it's meant that I've had to put aside a lot of my own crap.
But
And
you
that this is,
actually had to look at your crap too.
you
You
have
had
to
to
look
say,
at your crap and say,
where is my
well,
where hello crap, where are you crap? Oh, this is a place where I'm extra craptastic. I
yes.
have to evaluate my crap. Why am I so crappy here? What do
Hmm.
I do to move beyond my crap? How is my crap being communicated in an unspoken fashion that it affects other people? Sometimes I, what I caught in myself is, when I don't understand something, and it's really me trying to get more information, but the way I ask to get the information is not right, because as I've evaluated it, it kind of comes across as being a little bit dismissive. So
Hmm. Hmm.
this is something that I've had to work on in order to work with people who maybe don't come from where I come from, don't have the education that I have, whatever it is, aren't from the United States, who don't have my privileges. And this is what we all need to be working on. We're going to be talking about this in my talk, shameless plug here, but my talk for where we're all connected, which is a 2-hour thing I'm doing with Vicky Clark. Vicky Clark.
Yes, I know, Vicky.
But yeah,
Amazing.
it's more than just saying, you know what, I believe the children are our future, so I'm going to work with kids. Well, if deep down you really don't like children, you just think that you're saving them, you're helping them, you're the great adult hope for all the children,
Hmm.
you're not going to be helping the children, I promise you.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So I have another question for you.
Yes, this may be the last one. We're getting up to the time, but
I
yeah.
know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
No, that's okay. Let's go for it.
So I want to talk about how you are working. Have you had any difficulty in getting your local community, your West Indian community in Canada, into the Pilates sphere?
Yes. Yes, it's hard. Well, because and there's several reasons for that. I think that Pilates has put itself out there as this very white thing to do,
Mhm.
right? Now, I'm going to counter this. I'm going to counter this by saying that in Trinidad specifically, I know of one, two, three, four, five. In fact, Martin actually interviewed a guy who was in Trinidad as well over the summer. I know about 5 or 6 Pilates studios through the island, and they're all, pre-COVID, they were all doing very well.
Mm.
So in that environment where we're all surrounded by ourselves, we see ourselves in everything that we do, that makes a big difference. But if the problem is here that people do not see us. Like Misty, you're rare, especially as a master trainer. The only other black master trainer that I know well would be Jennifer Dahl at Merrithew. I know that there are a few others around, but we're few and far between. Very, very few and far between. So one of the important things for our community is that they have to see us. They have to see themselves in us doing the thing, right? This is why I really enjoy the work that Teresa Ellis does,
Sure.
because she is a member of her community. Her community sees her, and not only that it becomes accessible to them. She makes sure that it is accessible to them. So those are the three
Real
things.
quick, Teresa Ellis's Pilates Bar and Jams. Are you
Jams, yes.
familiar with her? And I think she said 85% of her clientele is LGBTQIA, sex worker,
Hmm.
something else, minority as well, I believe.
Hmm.
So
There's Latinx and Black, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So black and brown, we'll say.
Black and brown, yeah.
And the community that she has built is ridiculous. And she has done this not, going and doing a freaking anthropological study. She looked at the people that are around her in her physical community and said, I'm going to serve these people because they're left out. That's how she started. Go ahead.
No, you just said everything that I was going to say. So no, that's okay. That's good. So we have role models in the community, but it's important really for our communities to see ourselves doing this. Right. I see Informed Pilates from London. I'm sure that she has the same issue in London. It's very hard, in these cosmopolitan settings to put yourself out there and kind of show our own communities what it is to be, healthy and living well. So actually, that's a nice segue because we're actually trying to do that at the University of Toronto. We have our well-being collective, and that's our job, is actually to show in the highest halls of academia that, people who are Black faces, Indigenous faces, brown faces, Pacific Islanders, and Asian faces all have a place and a voice and a safe space to do and be the exercise people that they need to be in order to feel well and to be well. So it is very, very important that we get ourselves out there. Sometimes it means that you have to do stuff that you don't get paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
100%.
Sometimes it means that you have to do stuff that you don't get paid for. But you know what? That's good, because in the greater scheme of things, if everybody gets lifted up, right, and then is able to do the work, you'll get paid back in due course. That will happen, right? But you need to, sometimes you just have to go in there and get your hands dirty and do the work in order to really get our image out there. Again, it's important. I've heard it so many times. Particularly as Black and brown individuals, we need to see ourselves.
We do.
In positions of either power, but that's not important. But doing the stuff that we dream, because as a kid, I would read a book. All of these protagonists were white, right? And I had to race bend in order to kind of feel myself, in that spot. But I was doing it because in Trinidad, that's all we do is race bend, right? But it's but we had to do that. But why do all of this heavy lifting when they can actually see themselves in these positions doing these things? So it's so important that our visibility is there for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because the what you just said about race bending, I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective. Just, you get out there, you do what you do. You look around, nobody looks like you. It's like, oh, well, it's Monday, of course. But Dr. Bruce D. Perry and Oprah Winfrey have this book that they put out together, and it's called What Happened to You? It's conversations on trauma, resilience, and healing. And I listened to the podcast about it. My friend Pat Guyton has been telling me about this book all week, and blown away.
Absolutely.
Blown away by the way he frames certain things that we deal with in our experience. But once again, take race out of it. There's always a way where being othered causes trauma, and how we navigate through that trauma is so very important. I'm reading it because I want to know how to make sure that I do not other others, and not that I expect to get it perfect, but finding out like some of the weird things that I've put into my brain and developed as kind of like tics come from that. It's been so very informative. I agree with you. We need to see more of people that look like us, not because we're trying to conquer the world, but because our children deserve to have somebody to model themselves off of.
100%.
We didn't have that. We had the bad guy on Hill Street Blues and all the bad guys on the news. It's so very important. It's so very important for Black people to see that they can heal too.
We had on CBC, it's my coffee is still not setting in. It's been one of those mornings. But she brought all of the votes from Georgia to Biden.
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams, yes, absolutely. Stacey Abrams. For those of you who have access to the internet, check out the Sunday magazine. We had the host is Brown from the South Asian Brown and interviewed Stacey Abrams yesterday for Sunday morning, and it is a brilliant video or radio broadcast. Many of you don't know that she's also an author and she is published. One of the reasons why she went into writing is because she did not see herself in the books that she read as a child. Mm-hmm. And her focus on blackness in particular is there because she wants to put that out there, that you too, as a black woman or a black man, can see yourself in these situations, okay, and how to deal with it. So Stacey, she is amazing. And that interview, she is up there in my hero list for sure. And you can see, I hope she runs for president one day. I really do.
Listen, somebody's got to help us. In the United States, we are going the wrong way.
I don't think we're not going the right way in Canada. We didn't get a chance to talk about multiculturalism here, the dream of multiculturalism, and then how it kind of floundered over the years. But, Canada was sort of based, at least in the 60s, because again, diversity, strength through diversity and diversity through strength, right? The whole idea of not having a melting pot, but having people coming together, that has fallen by the wayside. But that was the great dream of the 60s. It was Pierre Elliott Trudeau that put that forward, and it worked. It has, at least we're not putting our hands around each other's throats. But that's another discussion you and I will have when we take over this channel again, Misty.
Martin, you better look out, Martin Reed.
Yes, that's right. We're coming for you with our guns a-slinging.
Locked and loaded. We are going to take over again. Everybody, I want to thank you guys all so much for listening to us today. I also want to, what is going on here? I also want to tell you this. None of this is easy. I mean, it's more than just being a good person. If you want to have more conversations like this, start following me, follow Martin, follow all of us, and please join me. I have a workshop coming up next week. We're all connected, the work of allies. Would love to see you there. Reach out, send me a message. Happy to chat with you about it.
And everyone, do not be afraid to be uncomfortable. Because the only way that you're going to make change is to be uncomfortable. That's when you start making the realizations about, if I'm uncomfortable, something's wrong. So don't be afraid of allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. Don't run away from your discomfort. It will save your life.
That discomfort is growth.
Exactly. Exactly. I have a client, Misty. I gotta go.
Everybody, thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So good to see all of you. We'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone. Happy Monday. Bye.
Bye.